Hey guys, it's the Man in Black, and welcome back to 52 Weeks of Green Lantern. Today, as you might have guessed, we're talking about 6 months of Green Lantern New Guardians. Once again, I'm going to be varying up the format a bit. I'm going to try and talk about it kind of in terms of characters, because I believe is the best way to cover 6 months with this particular arc. First off, the cover. Now, it's a pretty nice looking cover, pretty awesome. I'm a little torn though, because I don't know if he broke Fatality's spine or what, but it was pretty interesting how she managed to put away for her tits and ass to both be on display at the same time from that angle. So, Fatality might have a broken spine that we never actually speak of again. The opening, I'm going to call them cinematics to this issue, are actually pretty decent. I mean, not that I expect him to be terrible and that it's a shock, but, you know, pretty good building up of tension here. We have no idea who this character is, and they're really trying to bring him on as a real badass character that we have reason to be afraid of, and rightly so, as we're going to see. Everybody's pretty much reacting to him, trying to figure out what's going on. Let's talk about Kyle Rayner a bit. He's basically the star up to this point. He is, depending on the issue, more or less the star, and what the issue is built around. What the series is built around. It started with his origin story, and went on to different rings sent to him. Now, we still don't know why the rings went to him, rather than toward the being that was trying to steal them. I suppose we'll find that out. So Kyle now he no longer has rings of every color, but he does have the residual energy of those rings, which kind of broke after he wore them all at one time during a battle with the Guardians of the Universe, basically making him the most powerful mortal alive until such time as his body could not take it anymore. We want to talk about Glomulus. He is a construct of Agent Orange, a member of the Orange Lantern Corps, basically meaning he's a living construct who was summoned after the individual in question was killed by Larfleeze, Agent Orange, and inducted into his corps. Glomulus is not a very intelligent lantern, which is probably why Larfleeze trusts him so much. He knows that there's no question of, even the possibility of him attempting to betray him, because he does not have much in the way of intelligence. He does what he's told, and that's about it. Now, Larfleeze, well, we're going to find out Larfleeze has obviously some more involvement here than we're aware. But at this point, we know Larfleeze is the individual who managed to hold on to his ring, mainly because he's the only Orange Lantern, in terms of actual living beings. The rest are constructs of his. He managed to hold on to his ring, and I guess diverted the rings in order to gather individuals from every corps together to combat this threat that is apparently directly at odds with Larfleeze. Now, Kyle has finally managed to break the coating around the rings to access the entire emotional spectrum, to be able to communicate with all of the so-called new Guardians. One more reason why Kyle was the one chosen essentially to lead them, because he can access rage, avarice, fear, will, compassion, hope, and love. He's always been a very unique Green Lantern for that reason. He wasn't quite as strong in the willpower regard as most Lanterns. He was much more emotional. Nice right up front shot of Fatality's tits talking to us. And here we go, the Archangel Invictus, who has come to fight the new Guardians. Now remember, the Guardians of the Okay, the Guardians of the Universe could not stand against Kyle when he had all of the rings on. He doesn't anymore. But still, you'd think these would be a formidable group. And I could have spoken about a few other people. Alright, here's the part I'm going to talk about Fatality a little bit. Now, her backstory is that she was formerly a bounty hunter seeking revenge against Jon Stewart and the Green Lanterns for the loss of her homeworld. That was in the previous volume before the New 52. That was pretty much the major plot point of Stewart. He would go back to this world that he failed to save and meditate, and it would be his anchoring point, what really made him a character for that volume. There really wasn't much else to him in Green Lantern Volume 4 and Green Lantern Corps Volume 2. She's from that world, yet she also trained as a warrior on Okara, the world that Larfleeze essentially rules. So I'm not sure if there's backstory between that, or if they accidentally, someone didn't realize that they were using the same world. She then became a Star Sapphire, decided that, her ways of revenge and hatred and everything were beneath her, became a Star Sapphire. She's the most sensible of the individuals that came after the missing rings, which is interesting because they say that the farther you are away from green, the less level-headed your ring allows you to be, which in the case of this particular Sapphire, this is very much not true, because especially if you compare her to the yellow avatar, should be dang, I'm trying to remember his name now, but you'll see him in a moment. You saw him while we were flipping through. Compared to him, she is extremely level-headed. And on the opposite side, you had Blue. Saint Walker is an interesting character. I don't know if you could. It's true that his ring did not hijack his brain, but I wouldn't exactly call him the most sane either. He's optimistic to the point of, 11th Doctor optimistic. And here's an interesting thing of this episode. He talks about he. Now, apparently, according to Invictus, only Larfleeze, yes, Larfleeze is the beast that he's referring to, only Larfleeze has rings as far as this individual knows. So, I don't know where he's been for the past several million years. But we'll find that nobody knows who he's talking about just yet. Yes, Arkillo was his name. My apologies. Let's talk about Arkillo. He has long been Sinestro's right-hand man, the lieutenant of the Sinestro Corps, and he's the one who battled Mongol to rule the Corps in Sinestro's name before losing, having his tongue ripped out. His tongue was restored by Saint Walker in a show of goodwill, basically letting his ring do whatever Arkillo hoped, which of course Arkillo was not grateful for. I haven't really talked about the things surrounding the rings being taken in issue 1. Basically, a Sinestro, a Red Lantern, a Star Sapphire, and a Blue Lantern. Well, we don't see the blue. It happened to the Blue Lantern, but so basically those 3 individuals, their rings left them while they were in dangerous situations, causing them to end up being killed. The Red Lantern died because your heart stops when you put on a red ring. When it left him, he died. The Sinestro was in the middle of a fight caused by the Sinestro and was slaughtered after picking a fight with people and then losing his ability to fight back. The Star Sapphire, on the other hand, was simply in space, and when she lost her ring, could not breathe. So they all showed up and started fighting with Kyle, which consumed most of issue 2. Now this is interesting because Invictus is seeing them as evil individuals attacking his world. Now they all have blood on their hands. They've all fought in wars. So there's that to an extent. But Arkillo is really the only one here who could truly be seen as particularly evil and bloodthirsty. Even Bleeze, up until this issue, I believe she returns in this issue, but up until this point, even Bleeze could only really be seen as a bloodthirsty animal with no real sentience to guide her actions other than Atrocitus's commands. Arkillo is really the only one here who could truly be seen as an evil lantern. And of course he's the one who speaks to Arkillo because I mean, he's the only one who speaks to Invictus because Invictus spoke to him. Pretty badass fight, though, considering how one-sided it's expected to be. Here we see Bleeze. She might have returned last issue then. You can't really tell that she's become sentient here, which basically happened in the Red Lanterns comics, but they do a show of paying acknowledgement to that. Basically, the first few issues has Bleeze mindless, while at the same time the New Guardian comic, the Red Lanterns comics are showing Bleeze becoming sentient, becoming intelligent. So Bleeze had to disappear for about an issue to go through the first few issues of Red Lantern, which means that before New Guardians was set behind Red Lantern, now it seems to be set ahead of it because Bleeze hasn't really had a chance to run off on her own yet, at least not the ones that I've read. And yes, if you might notice, I'm trying to catch up. I don't know how well my wallet will cooperate with that, but I'm trying to start doing 2 of these a week until I catch up. And of course, to continue fighting. Ah, yes. Invictus sees Glomulus, and he sees the Agent Orange symbol on Glomulus. And here's where Invictus really gets mad. Let's talk about Saint Walker for a bit before this comic ends up wrapping up. Saint Walker is a Blue Lantern of Hope, and he was given the title of Saint, while the rest of his corps were given brother, sister, that type of thing. So basically, he was pretty much chosen, you are the most hope-filled individual in the universe. You will be chosen to be the Silver or Bronze Age Hal Jordan of the Blue Lanterns. So he's the one who pretty much showed up after the brawl in New York, the one who immediately started helping out Kyle, the one who immediately was sure that, things were going to get better. So far, he's been pretty much wrong on all accounts. One thing about Blue Lanterns is that if a Green Lantern is in their vicinity, they are extremely powerful. They have powers without a Green Lantern being around, but essentially the thing is, hope requires will. They was founded by Ganthet, a Guardian of the Universe, who in this book has had his emotions stripped of him. Oh, sorry, between this and Green Lantern. I guess he wants you to read them all. But he's kind of stopped being the Ganthet that they knew and swore to eradicate the Blue Lanterns that he created. But the whole thing when Ganthet started the Blue Lanterns is that hope and will need to work off of each other to become powerful. So Blue Lanterns have the potential to be the most powerful lanterns alive, but only if they're working in tandem with a Green Lantern. A Green Lantern working with a Blue Lantern can have, 500% power. They're essentially extremely powerful. Meanwhile, a Blue Lantern can bring back a dying star. You know, they brought back Arkillo's tongue. They can do a lot of extremely powerful things if a Green Lantern is there for their rings to work off of each other. And of course, Invictus and St. Walker are tangling. St. Walker, believing that Invictus is evil, trying to kill them, he tries to, use some force light, cleanse him of the dark side. It doesn't really work. Meanwhile, Invictus is kind of like, oh damn, you're actually a good person, why are you fighting alongside this group? Ah, yes. And here's where this was a continuity error, because we saw Bleez earlier. Bleez was not yet inside this solar system size structure, which is essentially created of duplicates of planets that are repopulated. For what purpose, we don't know yet. So, Bleez is going to come and fight for this coming issue. So, how do I feel about the arc? I think it was pretty good. I don't think it was quite as cohesive or as good as Green Lantern Corps, but it was definitely good. I think it has a lot of potential. I mean, that's pretty much been my mantra throughout reading the series. That has the most potential of anything here, and I'm still really looking forward to seeing what happens. I just hope it doesn't bog down and as mediocre. This was a pretty good issue. It was mainly hurt by all the questions that it asks without really giving us any answers, but I'm hoping to see that soon. Until next time, Man in Black out.